Now I have great pleasure in welcoming Mary Zazzi, who is going to come and tell us her patient story with ET. Welcome, Mary.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Mary, and it's a real honour and pleasure for me to speak today about my MPN, essential thrombocythemia. My journey with ET is a rather long one. To be precise, 42 years long. Yes, I told you I beat you. At the age of 17, so you can now work out how old I am, post a knee arthroscopy, I developed a right calf DVT, and after a blood test, I was told that my platelet count was in excess of 1.2 million. And at that very moment, my whole world was turned upside down. I went from being an extremely athletic young person to be told that I had a disorder that is generally associated to old people. And had I been in contact with any radiation? And by the way, this is a life-limiting disorder. I remember sitting there feeling so numb and unable to say anything because my mother was crying hysterically and my father was staring at the wall. When we left my consultation, I didn't actually have a clue, nor did my parents, as to what we had been told. And in those days, I didn't have the privilege of internet to Google more information. After I recovered from my DVT and knee surgery, I remember being blitzed with a high dose of busulfan and told to return to haematology for regular checkups. To this day, I've played that scenario over in my head over and over again and questioned why didn't I ask more questions or even challenge the proposed treatment I was being offered. All I do remember was blind fear and not really understanding why this was happening to me. But busulfan did the trick, and my platelets did come down to around 600,000, after which I started on hydrocarbamide. That first year of diagnosis, I had a multitude of tests, and I can't begin to calculate how many blood tests I had. My A-levels suffered as a result, but I don't remember telling my teachers, nor do I remember asking for extra support. I just suffered in silence. On a more positive note, I am a true believer of what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, and a strong positive mindset. My parents always instilled in me that anything in life was possible if you're prepared to work hard to get it. In my 20s, I carved a very successful career in banking. I met my husband when I was 24 and was married by 26. The biggest challenge was fast approaching. I remember having a very deep conversation before we married about having children. There was not a lot of positive talk about having babies with ET, and I was scared that I might not be able to give him children, and I wanted to be clear from the off that he could walk away. Thankfully, I didn't scare him off. We planned our first child about 2 years after we got married. Was the process easy? Absolutely not. My biggest nemesis was coming off hydrocarbamide and starting PEG interferon, which gave me awful side effects, flu-like symptoms, and the worst itching you can imagine. However, I gave birth to a very healthy baby boy in March 1995, but unfortunately for me, I developed a sagittal sinus thrombosis 10 days postpartum and spent the next 4 months thinking I was going to die and not watch my son grow up. Lucky for me, I overcame the obstacles and made a good recovery. For child number 2, yes, I didn't allow sagittal sinus thrombosis to put me off, because it's all about positive mind attitude. I was referred to St Thomas's for my care under a specialised team, and that's when my care with ET dramatically improved. To this day, I am forever grateful to have met Dr. Beverly Hunt and Professor Tom Pearson, and I spent the next month having weekly visits to St Thomas's and remember watching the Millennium Wheel go up on the Thames. In August 1997, I gave birth to a healthy baby girl with no postpartum problems. The toughest and most challenging years of my life was most definitely the next 10 years after I had my children. As a young mother living with ET, I was constantly exhausted. Trying to hold down a full-time job and caring for 2 young children was beyond tough. I had bouts of depression and anxiety as I didn't want to let anybody down and constantly worried about my capabilities as a mother and whether I could hold down such a responsible job. Yet, I was so lucky to have the support of my parents and a husband, but still felt so overwhelmed. I had no one to talk to. Who I felt would understand. There were no groups I could turn to who understood what I was going through. So even with the love I had from my family, I still felt really isolated. At times, I even questioned myself and thought perhaps I was being lazy because I wasn't managing as well as other mothers of my age. I think I reached breaking point in my early 30s and decided to totally review my life and change things. I gave up my high-powered job and became self-employed. I set up my own property portfolio and also worked as a medical PA for various consultants. In the meantime, ET had been reclassed as a cancer and I became familiar with MPN Voice. MPN Voice opened up a whole new world for me and made me realise that I was not on my own. I was then introduced to Maz, who suggested that I would make a good buddy, given that I had lived with ET for so long, and would I be interested in helping others through my own experiences. Being a buddy for MPN has been a great honour and privilege, and I would like to think I have helped many people. And last year, I was also asked by Leukemia Care if I could buddy for them too, as they too offer a buddying service for people with MPNs. I have done a vlog with the lovely Nona Baker, again talking about my experiences with ET, and I feel so passionate that people should now be made aware that ET is not a life-limiting cancer, even if I still prefer to call it a disorder, and that you can achieve and do anything you want. I always tell people that ET does not define me and who I am as a person. In the 10 minutes I have been given to speak today, it's not easy to get through 42 years of living with an MPN, but I want to bring to the table is hope. Hope for newly diagnosed young people that you can live a normal and full life. Hope to any woman who wants to be a mother that it can be done. Hope to anyone with an MPN that we can have come a long way since I was diagnosed and that treatments have substantially improved. I say this because a few years ago I came off hydrocarbamide because I spent over 37 years on it after having Mohs surgery for a basal cell carcinoma on my chin and was put on PEG interferon. My resistance at first to PEG interferon was literally me kicking and screaming at the thought of going back on this treatment. But I was assured that this new PEG is slow releasing and side effects would not be as bad as those that I had experienced during both my pregnancies. Well, I can say from my point of view, this has been an absolute game changer. I only require 90 mcg injection once every 3 weeks, and my platelets are happy at around 350,000. Side effects are minimal, so whilst I have not seen a cure for my ET treatment, the actual medication side of things have drastically improved. Before I finish here today, there is one person I would really like to talk about. Her name is Professor Claire Harrison. Or, no, don't go away. Don't go away, this is really important to me. Or the junior doctor I met at Chase Farm Hospital in Enfield approximately 35 years ago. Little did we both know then that our paths would keep crossing and that we would develop a deep patient-doctor relationship. And I would still be here, and that she would go on to be an institution and advocate for MPNs. There are really no words that I can possibly use to thank her for the care throughout my 4 decades of living with ET. She is always at the other end of my emails if I need help, and I think that generally I've been a good patient and not disturbed you too much. As I'm getting older, my life and health seems to be getting better and better, and I have told Claire that she is not allowed to retire anytime soon because her mission is to allow me to grow old disgracefully. Thank you very much for listening.